Imagine receiving the last ever text message that you would receive from your family member. This is exactly what happened to Maria Sharon when she received the last ever text message from her brother, Caius Kelly. Caius was an ICU nurse in the New York City Mount Sinai West Hospital, which is where he became infected with COVID 19. For a while, his condition was stable, but he deteriorated and was moved to the ICU. While there, he sent his last ever text message to his sister. In the text message, he said that he loved her, that he was tired, and that he wanted to go to sleep. A few days after that, he died of COVID 19. This is just one of the stories of one of the people who has become infected and died of COVID 19 and how it has affected their family and the people around them. We all have a responsibility to help slow and stop the spread of COVID 19. In the surveys that you all took, 58% of you said that you had come into contact with between 1 and 12 people in the last 2 weeks. However, all of you recognize the importance of staying at home and social distancing. I think I can also speak for us all that when we do go out, we see a lot of people who aren't following the governmental guidelines and who aren't staying at home. I first became interested in COVID-19 when I heard about it back in December last year. And that's when I started doing research to help become more informed about the disease and also on how to protect myself and others. More recently, I've been doing research on the governmental guidelines for this pandemic and how to respond to it and what I can and cannot do during the pandemic. So during this speech, I'm going to try to persuade you to take action to slow and stop the spread of COVID-19. First, I'm going to talk about the immediate need to understand and follow the governmental guidelines and stay at home. Then I'm going to offer reasonable solutions. Then I'm going to visualize what might happen if we don't take action. And finally, I'm going to talk about a few ways that you can take action during this pandemic. According to the California Department of Public Health, as of April 15th, 2020, 26,182 Californians have been infected with COVID-19 and 890 people have died. The COVID-19 virus is very contagious and the rate of infection is concerning. There's also currently no vaccine or cure for the coronavirus. The best way to prevent illness is actually to prevent exposure. In a story for KTVU News, Andre Sr. described a story told to him by Stacy Silva about her father. Her father became infected and died of COVID-19 earlier in March. On March 3rd, her father checked himself into the hospital for a cough and a migraine. A few days later, he was admitted to the hospital and placed on a ventilator. And a few days after that, he actually died of COVID-19. Silva wanted to say that the COVID-19 pandemic had felt so far away from her until she herself was personally affected. And she also wanted to tell people to take it seriously and also to put a face on the death toll of people dying of COVID-19. Nobody wants to become a statistic in the COVID-19 pandemic, so it's important to take action to protect yourself, others, and your family. Now that I've talked about the immediate need for action during the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm going to talk a little bit about solutions. So according to the Center for Disease Control, COVID-19 is spread from person-to-person contact. And people who do not appear or feel sick may be able to spread the virus as well. So it's important to limit that exposure in order to slow and stop the spread of COVID-19. And the best way to avoid contact is to follow the governmental guidelines and also to stay at home. Now, I know there have been a lot of guidelines that have been issued in the last month or two that have told us what we need to do in order to protect ourselves and others. Sometimes these guidelines may seem a little bit confusing on what you can and cannot do during this time. So On March 19th, which is when this order went into effect, Executive Order N3320 was issued by the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom. And in this order, he said he ordered all individuals living in the state of California to stay home or at their place of residence, except as needed to maintain continuity of operations of the federal critical infrastructure sector. And like I said, that order went into effect on March 19th and is in effect until further notice. Now, some people may feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. You have to stay at home, but there's still questions about what you can do during the pandemic. So, according to covid19.ca.gov, which is a website that was set up in order to help people understand the guidelines for the pandemic, this is what you can do during the pandemic. You can go to the hospital, you can go to the grocery store and the pharmacy, and you can also pick up food for takeout from restaurants. You can walk or run around your neighborhood, and you can go to work if you are considered an essential worker. It's also important for people living in the San Diego area to understand that all parks, beaches, and trails are closed until further notice. So like I said before, 26,182 Californians have been infected with COVID-19 and 890 people have died. Unless we take action in order to slow and stop the spread of COVID-19, it's going to continue to infect people, and people are going to continue to be sick, and we're not going to be able to go back to our normal life as quickly as we would like. So many of us are probably familiar with the term flatten the curve. This term was thought up by epidemiologists, and it's just a way to illustrate what we need to do and what the effects of social distancing and staying at home are. And the effect is to lessen the amount of COVID-19 cases as well as spread them out over a longer period of time. That way the healthcare facilities won't be overtaxed and people won't die unnecessarily just because they can't get the treatment they require. So obviously this is important. If we don't take action to social distance ourselves from people and to stay at home and to follow the governmental guidelines, we won't be able to flatten the curve, and we won't slow or stop the spread of COVID-19 anytime soon. So some of you might feel that your individual actions don't have much impact on the world around you. However, everybody has that responsibility, and you can only control your own actions. So staying at home is preventing exposure to yourself as well as preventing exposure to your family, and it's also preventing you from exposing anyone else, because like we learned before, even if you don't feel or appear sick, you may actually be spreading the virus to other people. So even though it may feel like your individual actions don't have an impact, they do, and we all have a responsibility to stay at home. So now that I have talked about possible solution to slow and stop the spread of COVID-19, I now want to visualize what might happen if we don't take action. So imagine us, every person in the world, as a domino that are standing beside each other all over the world. COVID-19 was the initial force that pushed that first domino over, and the dominoes will continue to fall and will continue to become infected. We will continue to become infected and affected by the pandemic if we don't step out of that domino line. And the only way we can step out of that domino line is to stay at home, to follow governmental guidelines, and to social distance ourselves from others. So during this speech, I have tried to persuade you to take action to slow and stop the spread of COVID-19 by staying at home and by following the governmental guidelines. So first, I talked about the immediate need to take action. Then I talked about possible solutions. Then I talked about visualizing what might happen if we don't take action. And finally, I'm going to talk about the actions that we can take. So the first action that you could take is to stay at home. Now, that's really boring and very lonely. So one way you can have fun and hold yourself accountable to staying at home is to take selfies or maybe just post fun activities that you're doing at home to social media. And you can use the hashtag #StayAtHomeComm122 in order to share it with the rest of your classmates and then also with your friends, just so that we can all feel like we're in this together and we're connected even though we are apart and alone. The second thing you can do is go to the CDC's website and read the article about how to protect yourself and others so that you can help understand how you can follow those governmental guidelines in order to protect yourself. And one way you can hold yourself accountable is that I have sent you the link to the website as well as another link to a quiz about that article. And it's a quick quiz. It only takes about 1 minute. It's only 5 questions. And that's one way that you can hold yourself accountable to actually learn about what you can do to protect yourself and others, other than just, doing just hoping that you remember to do it in our busy lives. So that's the second way that you can take action other than staying at home. So why am I personally interested in this? I'm personally interested in this because I think we all have a responsibility to slow and stop the spread of COVID-19. And I think the best way to do that is education and staying at home. So what things I have done in order to take action is I have stayed at home and as much as possible. And I also have been doing a lot of research on the governmental guidelines and all the guidelines out there to help me protect myself and others during this pandemic when I do have to go out. So remember the story that I told at first with Kelly and his sister and the last text message he ever sent before he died of COVID-19. If we don't take action, these stories are going to continue to happen and we're not going to be able to slow or stop the spread of COVID-19. So that's just one reason to remember why you should take action in order to slow and stop the spread of COVID-19. Thank you.